Hey guys, so today I'll talk about our experience in the emergency hospital here. So this was during the time when winter just started in November, and you know how it is when the season changes here, right? So typically there are high chances of people catching the common cold or any viral infections. So there are a lot of people who were falling sick in that time, including the schools and public places. It was becoming risky to go out in public once you saw that happening around you. So yeah, it started as a common cold, right? But then when all of us fell sick at home, we were okay. We were on the regular paracetamols and it was fine. But when our daughter fell sick, um, maybe in 2 days it was kind of getting worse, and it was becoming difficult to see her in front of us suffering, right? So that's when we decided to go to the emergency to see if it's already overwhelmed, or do we have a chance to and the waiting times are not too long. So we decided to go early and see how things are at the hospital. So we went there, I think it was on a weekend in the morning, right? And so when we entered the hospital, there were certain checks before we reached even the triage, right? So at the door itself, there was like a, not a computer, but like a screen where you need to answer certain questions, right? Like what kind of symptoms are you having? Based on that, they were deciding whether to allow the patients in or not. So I was already concerned that looks like it is overwhelmed, right? Otherwise, they'll at least take us in and then make us wait long hours, and that's normal. But now there was suddenly like 4 or 5 people at the door, checking with us, right? What's wrong and what are the symptoms? So already I was thinking, okay, these guys are really checking if it's life threatening or serious symptoms, or else they're not going to allow us in. So there were certain questions that we answered, and because our daughter was struggling in the night and stuff like that, so we selected the appropriate options, and then they made us wait in the waiting area for the triage room. So what happens is when you enter, so before I talk about this experience, right? In general, we had been before as well once. So emergency room is sorry, the emergency department, right, of the hospitals. Typically, there's a triage room where you're checked if it is too severe. They have a category, I don't remember, but the highest is of course life threatening, an accident case and stuff like that, and then it follows down, right? So accordingly they put you in priority list. So that's what the triage team decides how bad your situation is, and then puts you in the line, right? But if your symptoms get severe while you're waiting in the triage waiting room, then you can let any officials know and they'll look after you, right? But yeah, that's generally the process. And then once your turn comes, the doctor sees you, and then based on your situation, the appropriate actions are taken, either medication or sometimes a procedure or surgery, or they'll talk to you, right? And then you can decide what you want to do based on the pain or suffering that you're going through, right? So in this case, when we waited in the triage room, there were not many people. There were just maybe 2 or 3 people in the triage waiting room. So it was pretty what do you call, relaxing to see, not too much crowd. And then yeah, this the triage, in the triage room, since we were all together, we went, all at once. They checked the regular numbers, right? The blood pressure, and then temperature, and then asked about what we are feeling. It was typical viral symptoms, but some of us had it worse in different times of the day. And at the time, there was shortage of this baby Tylenol or whatever, baby paracetamols in Canada. So that was another concern for us, that we are running out of paracetamol. So at least, if nothing, then we can get that from the hospital and get by a few days, right? Yeah, so they checked those, I think they call the vitals, right? All these basic checks. They do everything was fine. And then we were sent, normally we go back and wait, because of obviously it's not life threatening, and stuff like that. So I was expecting some wait time, but to our luck, they sent us directly, in the doctor's room. Okay, there we had to wait some time, maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, not too long. So, and then the doctor came in and then checked and talked to us, and there wasn't anything concerning. He asked whether the symptoms are getting worse. We said no, but yeah, from day one or day two, day three was not that bad, but it's still, somewhere close. So then he said, no, this is typical in the season and it's viral, so you just need to, let it go on its own and continue taking paracetamols, right? So that's what the doctor was checking with us. And yeah, for my daughter, I asked to, ask them to provide the medication, because we didn't have it, and all the pharmacies were running in short supply, right? So he provided a prescription, and then he also gave one dosage of the medicine, and then there was a pharmacy in the hospital area itself, and then we went there and we got the paracetamols, right? I'm not sure, maybe it was Tylenol. So we got that medication and then we came back. So end to end, we didn't spend much time, maybe half an hour or 40 minutes. So our experience, the last time that we visited the emergency room or emergency department, was not that bad, right? So that's about the the experience. I know in the last few months it has been all over the news that the hospitals are getting overwhelmed with a lot of patients coming in. So we were literally concerned about how long the wait times will be, whether we will be looked after or not, right? So luckily it was okay. But the visit before the last time was in Sickets, in Toronto. So that's the famous hospital for kids, right, in Toronto, or across Canada, even North America. Sickets is known across the world, I would say, where people from different parts of the world come in for treatment. So we went there for our daughter, who fell on the ground and had a cut right on the chin. So it was concerning, and we were really worried whether things will be on time in the hospital, right? Because this is not something which is internal, or you're feeling feverish or headache. This is like visible, right? and the chances of infection are high. So there we did spend a lot of time waiting, around 8 to 10 hours until a doctor saw us, right? So I didn't like that, considering, she had a cut and it's opened up and occasionally bleeding, and you have to sit there and look at her, right, for 10 hours. So that was concerning. And um, and then at the end of the day, yeah, we got the procedure done. But yeah, it was a long, really a long wait. And kids generally get restless, right? After a certain time, they wander in the hallways, and the risk of infection is there, so it becomes tricky, right? So yeah, the visit before the last was not that great, but yeah, at the end of the day, it was okay. Um, we were satisfied with what was done, but yeah, that was a different situation or a different experience, right? Yeah, so that's something that I wanted to share about, the experience in emergencies in hospitals, right? Because everybody has their own stories, some are good, some are bad, and um, it really depends where you are, what time of the year you're going, and what time of the week or day you're going, and what condition you're having, right? So a lot of factors in there, and also a big luck factor, right? So that's why they say, until and unless you really have an emergency, um, do not visit the hospital, the emergency um, department, because you'll end up waiting a long time in the hospital. I remember, in the doctor's waiting room, the people in the next room were also waiting a long time. And I believe, I mean, we were talking, and then she said that, okay, now I think I'd rather go home and, I don't know, walk in or go somewhere else. That's what she said. She came with her son, and he also had a cut or something, right? So, yeah, people sometimes decide to go back as well, even after waiting for so long, and they give up hopes and then they just go back, right? So, that happens as well, right? Um, so yeah, if there's not much of an emergency situation, then you don't need to go necessarily. But there's a flip side to it, right? If really you want to wait until the situation gets worse for you, right? And the pain aggravates and stuff like that, and then you go there, so there is a long waiting anyway, right? Um, so you'll have to sit there in the pain, and you'll have to go through the same, waiting times and suffer, right? Only thing is, why they say don't visit unless it's a real emergency. One is, obviously you'll waste a lot of time waiting because it's non-life threatening or non-critical. Second is, they don't want the hospitals to be overwhelmed by such conditions, which is not really an emergency, right? That's a more important point from the hospital perspective, so that they can only look after the right people, right? But yeah, that's about the hospital experience. So if you guys also have any experiences which you want to share, or something that will be helpful, right? In case we have to visit the next time, then just let us know in the comments, so that it will be helpful for everyone. Thank you for watching.